Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once more, a very warm welcome to all of our dear brothers, sisters, our Sophia TV family on this show where we discuss the philosophy and practices of Hajj. Now, as you remember from our previous episode, we are entering some of the technicalities, and specifically in this episode today, we, myself and you together will be traveling to Mina, and we're going to be discussing some of the things we do in Mina and some of the prohibitions we should be aware of. It's an honor once more to welcome to our show our dear respected alim, our scholar, our Hajj expert, Syed Raza Rizvi. Dear Sayyidina, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I hope you're well today, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah.
Dear Syed, as I was mentioning to our viewers, that in the previous episode we looked at some of the overviews. So going from the hotel in Makkah on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah to Arafat, then Muzdalifah. Now specifically we're going to be traveling to Mina. However, one important question which has arisen before we even go to Mina is regarding women. Can they stay overnight in? Can they not stay overnight in Muzdalifah and travel straight to Mina?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Muzdalifah is a wajib part of Hajj. So while they are traveling from the plains of Arafat to Mina, on the way they will be crossing through Muzdalifah. And when they're crossing through Muzdalifah, they can make the intention of staying in Muzdalifah. And if they get into Mina and they cannot come back, they cannot travel because of health reasons or old age or for whatever reason, they have to have a reason for not coming back to Muzdalifah. Then they can stay there because they've already made the intention at night. However, if they can, then it is wajib to come back to Muzdalifah and stay from the Fajr time till the sunrise in Muzdalifah.
Okay, thank you, dear Syed. But now, let's say we're on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah itself. We've done all of our respective dues. We're now in the land of Mina. What are these pebbles? How should they be? And how do I use them?
Okay, now Mina itself has certain obligations. Staying the 2 nights in Mina, stoning the shaitans. On the 10th, it is only stoning the big Satan. So now you're collecting the previous night, you've collected the pebbles, and we have some samples. Now you cannot have big stones or rocks that you are hitting the big shaitans. And you cannot have something as little as this, okay, which is you cannot see properly or which is
too small,
very small or tiny. Something like this is good, and something like this would be good. And even this is acceptable.
Okay.
So nothing too big, not big stones. There's no specific shape, so long as they are pebbles. And when you come to hit the big shaitan, you have to make sure that you see your pebble hit the big Satan. According to Syed Sistani, you have to make sure that you, because unfortunately what they've done is they've made the Satans very big in size.
Yes. In
olden days, if the big Satan was, let's say about 2 feet wide, and the middle one was about 3 feet wide, and the small one was 3.5, 4, they have made them 20 feet wide. So he says that you have to make sure that it is in the middle, or the middle of the original shaitan, and not from the top floor but the ground floor. You have to make sure that you hit the shaitan and you see that this is the pebble and it has hit the Satan, the old Satan, not the new 20, 30 feet or I don't know, 40 feet wide. Yes. Satan. So you have to make sure that you have to hit the original. Now, once you hit, you have to make sure that you see it hit. You can use goggles because unfortunately what happens is a lot of the people are hitting from all sides. You're all facing each other. Well, not so much now, but in olden days I do remember that you could use goggles to cover your eyes, and just to make sure that you're not hitting the eyes. And if you're doing niyabat, if you're hitting some people, because they're elderly, they can't go to the front and hit. You have to be sure that you're not hitting like you're trying to kill someone. Pick up your hand and lift and hit hard. I've seen people do that. So it has to be a normal hit.
Yes.
You're not fighting. It is not a match of killing someone. You're basically hitting the pebbles to Satan. So you have to make sure that you hit with the speed. And when you're hitting, you see, and you can, if you are on behalf of someone else as well, then you hit your first 7 pebbles yourself, and then you make the intention on behalf of someone else, your parents or whoever you're doing, who are also Hajis, then you make sure that you hit on their behalf.
Okay, but they say, you mentioned just now that there are some floors, and what if you can't go to the ground floor and you're sort of forced up to the first or second floors? What can you do then?
If you have no choice, then it is acceptable, but if you do have a choice, then you have to be on the ground floor. One of the other things that I must mention is that you have to make sure that you have hit 7. You can hit more, but you have to make sure that you have hit 7. So if you're in doubt that I have hit 5 or 7, then you have to make sure that it is 7. You must hit 2 more pebbles to the Satan to make sure that the 7s have been completed.
Okay, but what about, you mentioned previously as well that when you hit, you have to see it with your own eyes.
Yes.
Because there's so many stones flying about. What if you lose track and you don't know?
If you think that you've hit, then it is fine. And if you drop without using it, you can pick it up again and use it again. But the pebbles have to be unused. So if there are many people who have used them and they've dropped, you can't use them again. If you run out, then you have to ask someone else to lend you some of their pebbles, so then you can actually use those to hit. But you have to make sure that you hit 7 times, and you have to make the intention, and you have to make sure that those pebbles qualify.
But you essentially cannot use a used pebble.
No.
It has to be a fresh one, or if you drop it, then you have to be sure that that's yours, that's on the ground.
Yes.
Okay, but they say, what about if you borrow from someone else, and again, you're not able to do 7, you're doubting yourself too much, you're not able to count up to 7, what does a person do then?
Once they, if you cannot just say that, okay, I've hit 20 times, I'm not sure if I've hit 7. You have to make sure that you have hit 7. And those 7 have to be seen. And when I first went, over 20 years back, I was under a lot of pressure. How will I see my pebble hit? If you have a normal vision, you do see. It seems a bit difficult, but I assure you that you will see your pebble hit the Satan. So don't panic, don't be under pressure. One of the most difficult things in olden times was the rummy. When hitting the Satans was, the most number of accidents happened there, most number of deaths used to happen there, so it was the most difficult thing that I found in olden days. But now, even that has become easier. So, if you're doing your timing right, and the 10th will be a bit more difficult, but the other days will be fine.
I can imagine, given the physical nature that it requires. But then in this circumstance, say you've gone with your mother or your father, your cousins, your brothers, and they can't make it. You're a bit more active than them, you're a bit more healthier. Can you go on their behalf?
Yes, you can. And that's what I did as well. And sometimes it's not just your parents or your brothers and sisters. It is sometimes elder members, the elderly members of the Hajj group, and they ask you that you are younger, can you perform this on my behalf? Then sometimes, you can, on 2-3 people's behalf as well, perform the rummy.
Okay. And they say then, let's say, for example, I've gone now, I've performed mine, I've performed someone else's if they needed it to be done. What happens next? What's about the shaving of the head? How do I go about that?
So the next part after stoning the shaitan is basically the sacrifice of the animal. That has to be performed in Mina. According to Sani, you must sacrifice the animal in Mina. Now you can do that yourself, or another person can slaughter on your behalf. They can do the buying, but you have to pay for it. They buy the animal, they slaughter the animal in Mina on your behalf, saying that this is the person and I'm on their behalf slaughtering this animal. And as soon as they've slaughtered the animal, then you can then shave your head or shorten your hair, on the head, or so it is. These are all the obligations of Mina.
Specifically speaking, though, on this point there, Syed, so thank you for bringing that up as well. That's the sacrifice comes before the shaving of the head. It can't be, shaving first and slaughter. What I've heard is some groups, when they go, they usually call the butcher or whoever it is slaughtering, and they make you wait a few minutes, and then he calls you back to confirm that it's been done.
Usually, one responsible person or a few responsible people from the group or from another group who are going to be performing the sacrifices, they would travel to the part where the sacrifices are happening, the animals are being slaughtered, and they would have the list of your group, and they would read out, okay, I'm now performing on behalf of Sayyid Ali Raza Rizvi, the sacrifice for his Hajj Tamato, and they would phone and say, okay, these 4 or 5 people have been now performed. We are still not done with the others. So you'll have the list. They will have the same list. They would say, okay, the first 5 are done. So you will inform the 5, okay, your sacrifice has been performed. Now you can go and have your halq or taqseer, and then you will be out of ihram.
But God forbid, say that this happens. What if the slaughter place says there's no more animals? What does the person do then?
Unfortunately, then they will remain in the state of ihram until the animal is slaughtered. So sometimes it may be delayed for the whole day or even for the next day. So it has to be performed on the 10th, but if it is delayed, then they have to wait until 11th.
And as you mentioned, only then can you then shave your head?
Only then you can shave your head or cut your hair and then come out of the state of ihram.
And as a reminder to our viewers and myself first and foremost, you need to do it to yourself first before you can do it to someone else.
You must not shave someone else's head before you shave your own head. And if someone else is doing it for you, then they have to, they are not in a state of ihram. And once they shave your head, you're out of the state of ihram. Now you can perform it for someone else. But if you do cut someone else's hair before your own, then you will have to pay a penalty.
Okay. But they say, I've seen some people when they've come back from Hajj, mashallah, they've performed it like 5-6 times. They come back with normal hair. They've not shaved it. Why is that?
For the first Hajj, a person has to shave. The men, women are not allowed to shave, but the men have to shave their head for the first time. And it has to be a shave, and you cannot use just a machine. So there's a difference of opinion, but most of the scholars do not allow that you use a machine to make it very short. It has to be a shaved.
Yes. But the second, third, fourth time, that's not...
After the first time, you don't have to shave your head. You can just shorten your hair, and that's acceptable.
And for the ladies, it's just the cutting of the nails or a part of their hair?
Yeah, part of their hair or nails.
Okay.
For men, they have to try and make sure that it is hair.
Okay. And they say if a person is bound by, medical conditions, maybe they've got like a skin condition, which means they can't medically shave their hair or shave it clean. Again, is there exemptions in that case?
Then there will be exemptions because they medically will be in harm because of shaving. And then they will have an exception of using some other method of removing the hair.
And they say then, let's say for example we've done the stoning, alhamdulillah, we've got the slaughter done, and finally we've had the shaving of the head. What exemptions now or what prohibitions have been lifted from my shoulders? Is it all of them or do some still remain?
So now all the things which were prohibited become permissible except for a few. Okay. So you can, after you've shaved your head, you can look in the mirror, you can do everything except for using perfumes until you do the tawaf ziyarat. You cannot use perfume, and until you do tawaf al-nisa, you cannot have a husband-wife relationship.
So those are the 3. No applying of perfume, no if you're with your wife.
So basically the prohibitions with husband and wife are a few.
Yes.
So it's not just, so all of those remain.
Yes.
With husband and wife until you perform tawaf al-nisa.
Okay.
And the 2 rakat after the tawaf.
And this tawaf, which lifts these remaining obligations, does it have to be performed straight away, or can you go to your hotel and rest a bit and then do it?
Yes, you don't have to perform the obligations of Mecca while you're in Mina. But many people do during the day because it's not wajib to stay in Mina during the day. So they come back to Mecca, perform on the 11th Tawaf-e-Ziyarat, 2 rakat prayers of Tawaf-e-Ziyarat, and do Sa'i. Because between Tawaf-e-Ziyarat, prayers and Sa'i, you cannot have too long gap.
Okay.
Meaning a day and night gap. Meaning, if it was just, before Maghrib you finished Tawaf and prayers, and then you do Maghrib and Isha, and then you do Sa'i, that's fine. But you cannot have 1 day gap. So you do it today, the Tawaf and Sa'i, Tawaf and 2 rakats, and then Sa'i the next day.
Okay.
So 24 hours later. So you have to make sure that you do the Sa'i. And then you can go back to Mina, stay the night, stone the 3 Satans in the morning, and then come back the next day for Tawaf al-Nisa and 2 rakat prayers.
Okay. And just on this, it's a technical question, but we get asked this quite a lot as well. Staying in Mina itself, because we're speaking on Mina specifically, does it have to be the whole night? I've heard you can stay until midnight and then go back to your hotel and then come back the next day. Is that correct?
Half of the night you have to remain. So now you can have from sunset till midnight, or from midnight till sunrise.
Okay, so it has to be for a portion of the night at the very
half
least.
of the night. So you can either remain the first half of the night or the second half of the night.
Okay. Unfortunately, as they say, that brings us to the end of the show for today. Thank you so much for that explanation and clarification. It's been very useful. Thank you so much, dear Syed, once more. Our dear viewers, thank you to you two for tuning in. As you just heard, we discussed the implications and some of the practices around Mina specifically. Do join us again for our next episode, where we're going to be traveling towards the Tawaf of Hajj and Nisa, and specifically speaking about the conditions and obligations which you have to perform during those respected Tawafs. Until next time, on behalf of our dear respected Syed Ali Raza Rizvi, your host today, Zuryaab, as well as all of our dear team here at Sophia TV, please remember us in your du'as. We'll see you again shortly. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.